Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Michelle Morris, and I am with Consolidated Planning Group. We've got Anna Kluth with us today, and she is fantastic. She's going to be presenting the topic Transition 101 and helping us think through some transition tips and tricks and topics and things that need to be top of mind as your loved one turns 18. So, a few things before we jump into that. I do want to let everybody know that, first of all, yes, we record all of our webinars. After the webinar is over, you will receive an email that includes a link to the recording, which is on our YouTube channel. And you will also receive the slides that we go through today. So you'll get that at whatever email you registered for the webinar using. Now, if you didn't register ahead of time for this webinar, maybe you're listening on our podcast, or maybe you're already on our YouTube channel, we'd be happy to send you the slides. Just send a quick email to contact@cpgcares.net. Let us know what topic you're interested in and that you want a copy of the slides for that webinar, and we'd be happy to get those over to you. The other thing I want to let you know is that we cannot see you or hear you because of webinar mode here on Zoom. So any questions or comments that you have, please put them in the chat box. We love to get as many questions answered as we possibly can. And I personally love it when I see people talking to each other in the chat box a little bit. So feel free to do that. We can't see you or hear you, so enjoy your lunch while we chat um, or anything you need to do. So, again, a couple of little things about Consolidated Planning Group before I turn this over to Anna. We have been in business for over 30 years. We do all anything that any traditional financial advisor would do. We do those things, life insurance, investments, retirement planning, looking at year over year income and expenses and all of that kind of stuff. But most financial advisors don't do the special needs planning part that we do. So that's what makes us really different is that we focus on families with a loved one who has some kind of intellectual or developmental disability and planning to take care of that loved one even after the parent has passed away. Most financial advisors are going to plan to the end of your life as the adult, a parent, and we focus on planning to the end of your child's life to make sure that they're going to have enough money set aside to be taken care of even after you're gone. We are located just outside of Houston, Texas, but we work all across the United States with virtual meetings. We're members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are chartered special needs consultants and nationally certified Social Security advisors. So we take this very, very seriously. And almost every single client we have has a loved one with different needs. Families come to us, to talk about protection plans, lifetime care planning, transition planning. We talk about this stuff a lot. We can help you with your ABLE accounts and understanding the flow of money benefits and how to make sure that your money does not jeopardize your child's benefits. And really, we try to be here as a source for advocacy and education. There's a lot of kind of noise out there, we feel. And when you're working with us, we represent one of fewer than 200 financial planning firms across the United States that focuses on special needs planning. There's over 263,000 financial advisors, but less than 0.1% of those really focus on special needs topics like we do. So you're in the right place. A couple of things. We know that it keeps you awake at night, thinking about who's going to take care of my child when I can't do it anymore? Because you're not going to be young and able anymore. You're not going to be here for the rest of, you're eventually not going to be here. We're all going to pass away at some point. So what happens? Well, We like to say that starting your planning as early as possible is going to make a big impact. Start right now if you haven't done it yet, thinking about the future and what's going to happen after high school. There are great vocational options, there are residential options, there are educational options. There's a lot out there, and you need to think about how this is going to happen and how things are going to get paid for. You need to think about your legal framework and taking care of your kids once you're gone. Um, we always also say, don't just automatically assume that a sibling is going to be willing or able to step in into the role of caregiver. That creates friction on both sides of that equation, really. And it might be right for your family, but it's, even though it seems like an easier option, it might not be the best option for your family. So plan now while you have a longer runway. It gives you an opportunity to make small incremental changes that will have a large impact on your overall life. Okay. I'm going to turn this over to Anna. I do have some more slides at the end of her presentation to go through. And what I want you to keep in mind is that if you have questions or concerns, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. If you don't want to ask your question in public, or if you would like to set up a free consultation, we do that at Consolidated Planning Group. Anna, do you have free consultations? Yeah,
Yep.
so does Anna. So as we're going through this, don't be shy, but if you are, no worries, because you can just set up an initial meeting with me or with Anna, and we'd be happy to go over your questions at that time. Okay. So I will turn it over to you to go through Transition 101.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. And to Consolidated Planning Group, it's always a pleasure, and I'm always so happy to partner and be able to present with you guys. So my name is Anna Kluth. I am a transition specialist, and more recently, with some parents that I'm working with, we have also included the title work liaison. Some of the young adults are more inclined to the concept of work liaison. So I'm doing a little rebranding soon too with that.
There you
Um,
go.
but I have over 13 years experience working with individuals with disabilities, and more specifically, individuals who are neurodiverse. I started off as a program director working for a local nonprofit called Summer House Houston, and that's working with young adults with their social and vocational skills. And then taking a deeper dive into the kind of agency supports that are out there. I worked at Houston Galveston Area Council doing as a senior planner, planning kind of broader scale internships within the 13 counties that we covered, partnering with over 70 school districts and working with all of the transition coordinators and directors from each of those school districts to try and support the students with their employment transition and independence, as well as post-secondary options as well. And from there, I decided to take a leap, and I started Daisy Consulting, to where I could help individuals and their families one-on-one, as well as I am a provider under TWC, able to provide pre-employment transition services. And those are services that are free, offered by the state to students ages 14 to 22. And so that's a little bit of my background. I am very passionate about all the stages of transition and employment. And that employment looks different from everybody out there as far as part-time, full-time, skill sets, learning abilities. And there's something out there for everyone. It's just kind of getting to know what the person is interested in, and make sure that you're pairing it correctly and providing the right types of training. So today I just have one little icebreaker. Usually I have a bigger one, but just a question for everyone. And then we'll kind of go over the basics of transitions, some common barriers that we see out there, strengths of our loved ones or ourselves, and then some resources. I'm really big into sharing resources, So we'll go through some slides. I always encourage, if there's questions or comments or suggestions throughout, please go ahead and type them in the chat. I'm happy to have a conversation. I do have a question. So for anyone on here, if you could share what you see as the biggest barrier, either for yourself or the loved one that you are attending this for. And it could be transition or employment. Just curious if you feel like comfortable sharing.
A barrier towards employment or launching or
Yeah, just
anything, right?
anything. Right. I don't know the age group of everyone that's here, so it might be different. But sometimes they kind of interweave into what they could do. Okay, let's see. Anyone? Okay, employment. So just employment in general is a barrier. That's a big one. Transportation and mindset. So transportation is a huge barrier for a lot of people, especially depending on where you live, if you're trying to cross county lines, just the availability of transportation and confidence. You said, Michelle, that's yeah, that's a big one. And that's quite common, and that just usually leads to a lot of anxiety, which is a huge barrier as well. Safety concerns, so being safe on the job and probably the people that that are working around you as well. Finding suitable employment, managing benefits and eligibility, transportation, transition to college and employment. Okay. Well, great. Thank you all for entering it in the chat. Sometimes you never know how much engagement you're going to get. So this is wonderful. I love it. All right. So we will go into it. So the basics of transition are just all the W's the who, what, why, when, where. So who should be in that circle support when you start talking about transition planning, and that could be at every level of transition. We all have those big moments in our life. So it could be driving a car, graduating high school, employment, death in the family, living independently or in a group home or in a residential, whatever that might look like. So each of those steps in life, you want to have a good circle of support. And so that's usually always going to be your closest family member, hopefully, or caregiver, either or, who kind of knows you best and knows the capabilities of the individual and how much support they might need. It could be at different points in life a therapist who can come in and add different skill sets that a person might have to be able to know how to prepare for independence. It could be once you turn 14, of course, should be a vocational rehabilitation counselor. And going on and on, depending on if you're changing jobs. Maybe it's a former employer. It could be a support person that's been in your life. So just the who is really thinking externally of anybody who's been around an individual and can provide like valuable and intentional information that's going to help that person be successful in whatever that goal is. And then the what is the process of changing from one state to another. That's the Webster dictionary of what transition is. And so that includes social, personal care, vocational supports, kind of like I just said it, but just every, any kind of change that a person might have that we know might be uncomfortable or overwhelming, that we want to make sure that we are preparing them as best as possible to get to that next stage. And when is any age, the earlier the better, right? We want to always be preparing everyone for what's coming up. But by law and by TEA standards for Texas, 14 is the age where a student must be involved in that conversation for their IEP or 504 plan that involves a vocational component to it. And so that is when you should be asking your school, who's ever in that ARD meeting with you. How do we get vocational goals put in here? Or what does that look like? Can we invite a TWC VR counselor? Just getting information. And you probably want to start that conversation much earlier than 14 to let the school know that you know what you're talking about, that you know what is
Exactly.
what they are owed, what you are owed as a parent and the student is owed. And where is everywhere, right? So if we are at a restaurant, it's those communication skills that we're using. When we're walking in a crowded space, what do those boundaries look like? Phone calls, everywhere are teaching moments, even though we don't want to always be a teacher. But just being aware that transition planning and all the components of it can be are all around us and everywhere. And the why is, I kind of like to ask this of the group too. Why do you think it's important to have transition planning?
Know if anyone's going to respond to
I
that. I know what
will.
immediately comes to my mind is because there's so much out there and so much to do and to be aware of. And if you don't have a plan in place, I mean, what happens if something happens?
Right,
Oh,
right. And so, all right, the next slide is my kind of my why for
there
these.
we go.
And it's data. So just like Michelle just said, it's really everything is preparation and planning. And I think she's already noted it. She's probably said those words 100 times already. I've said them 100 times, maybe too. But because we know what's out there, all the data, statistics, and so that's why we can start as early as possible to help increase these statistics or change the normal of what's going on. But so 34% of neurodivergent high school students go to college, and 70% of neurotypical high school students go to college. And so, just looking at these numbers and realizing that, college is not for everyone, so that's not really a deficit, but it is showing that we should be looking for alternative plans for individuals. If college is not the mode, then is it a certification program, or is it a job, or is it a day hab? So just kind of knowing those statistics can kind of help you plan for the future. And 20% of young adults with autism spectrum disorder live independently after high school. And 59% of the Gen Pop live independently after high school. So that's pretty big kind of standout numbers too. 41% of students with disabilities graduate from a four-year college compared to 59% of neurotypical. And then this is the kicker. If you haven't heard it before, then it's a big one. So 30 to 40% unemployment rate for neurodiverse adults. That's 3 times higher than the rate for people with disabilities. And then that's 8 times higher than the rate for people without disabilities. So there's a huge gap there. And like a lot of you noted, employment is a barrier for your loved one. And so really kind of understanding what it takes to get a job and what's going to help support that person gain employment is important as well. And there's another statistic that's not on here, but I like to share. So for the average time for a neurotypical individual, it takes about 5 months to find a job. And there's some studies that show 12 months being the average time for a neurodiverse individual to find a job. So that's a huge difference. And right now it might be different too, because they're showing a lot of different statistics at the Department of Labor and job availability. But knowing that too, it's kind of a negative. It's also that positive too. So all the preparation or soft skills and different job readiness, you have a little time to prepare while you're looking. So you can actively be looking for a job while you're training and learning some of those skills that are needed while you're working on site as well. All right. The basics of transition planning are, so before you start employment, this is kind of geared more towards employment. You want to practice and know all of the soft skills. That's always going to be, you're always going to be practicing them, but really learning the time management, communication, hygiene, personal care, really going over like what all the basics of, what time do you need to wake up in order to leave the house to get to work on time, especially if you're having those transportation issues or if you're using Metro. Really all of those soft skills in preparation. And then, so writing the resume. And then I like to add too, because right now it is super extensive work, the whole application process. So you're having to set up a whole profile now just for a company before you, just to apply for a job. So kind of just really understanding the time it takes to apply for a job, and understanding that it can be overwhelming and frustrating too. So that those are the feelings that you should be talking about and learning how to communicate as well. And then going over the interview skills that are needed. So really just reiterating all the questions that might be asked. Practice, practice, practice. Michelle touched on confidence, and I think you find the more you practice, then the more confidence you're going to have, the more easy it is to get through any kind of communication exchange. So career exploration, really going through all the different types of careers that are out there. Some of us might have a limited view of what's available, and what might meet the needs of the skills that we have. So really looking out there. There's a lot of different avenues. We'll look at some resources later that can help you find what those different careers might be within the area. This is the Houston area. I think some people might be from everywhere, but you can kind of like take what we're learning here and look for it in wherever you're living too.
Yeah, these are pretty much universal truths, right?
Yes, absolutely. And then internships. So internships are always very helpful if you are connected with TWC, which you should be, between 14 and 22. They have a lot of internship opportunities that are paid where you can practice the soft skills, practice the communication. And then through those, then you can come up with career goals. Communication is always a goal, and self-advocacy is always a goal, before, during, after, always. So while someone has a job, then they might need some job coaching. That can look a lot of different ways, where they are working with on the employer side as well as the individual side. Check-ins constantly, making sure the individual feels safe, is happy, understands the job, as well as the employer as well. Financial literacy and money management. So that's a soft skill also. That can always be done before, but definitely when they're making paychecks, what does that look like to them? What is their money concept? Are they, some people understand money a lot better than others. And so really understanding the best way for them to manage their money, whether it's with a family member or if it's them, if they have their own bank account, just making sure that they understand what that looks like for themselves. And then reviews. So reviewing their job reviews with the employer, either together or separate. Again, it kind of coincides with those check-ins, but making sure that the person's doing the job correctly. And if not, or if they're not feeling happy, how do they communicate with their employer? And then always going over the career goals constantly as well. Are we meeting the goals, or, do we need to change goals? And then afterwards, you just always want to do the check-ins, manage career goals, and then talk about any promotions if there's anything available. Or if their career goal is changing, maybe that we're looking at different opportunities for them as well. Okay.
There's a note in the chat box I just wanted to point out that I really like, volunteering. Volunteer work can be such a great hands-on kind of training program to start learning some of these skills before you move into a paid job. Plus, it opens so many doors. This person in the chat box says, my son got all of his paid jobs from first being a volunteer. And I love that, because not only is it, skills training and opening doors to employment, but it gives you that intrinsic reward. And it's important that our kids learn that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who said that, but thank you because that no one has said that before, and I've done this quite a few
Thanks, Randy.
times. Yeah, thank you. That's a wonderful point, and that is so important and so good to hear too. That that's how someone is actually getting a job, because so many times our loved ones might be seen as having deficits or not being able to do the job. And one of my favorite parts of the job is partnerships with internships, but also volunteer places where the employer, they're all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, wow, like how do we hire this person and how do we continue working with individuals similar? So great point. Thank you so much. And I'm going to add that in for my next one.
I
So
love that.
yes. All right. So common barriers. Everyone kind of mentioned where some that they might have. And so on here, sometimes there's a lack of where to start. And again, that application process is pretty tedious these days. So really understanding how the whole process of how to look for a job, networking too. So making sure we're using our networks of people who might know of someone else who's hiring, lack of resources, lack of training, and that could be lack of training on the before you start working side, and that can also be lack of training on the employer side. So really, when you're starting to have a job, asking what does the training look like here, and then if any additional supports are needed, then that's a great time to bring that up as well. Lack of confidence, so we went over that. I think that is a huge one that I see more than any other one, honestly, is confidence. When that individual like finds their confidence, it can really change the trajectory of their success on their career path. Opportunity. So lack of opportunity is a huge one. Just knowing what's out there, and people who are willing to do like the internships or volunteer job shadowing, medical support, and then that also lends itself into proper accommodation. So making sure that you are getting what you need to be successful at that job, and knowing how to ask for any accommodations you might need, and then any educational support as well. And one that I have come across lately with quite a few of individuals I've been working with is the holding a job. So we get a job and then holding a job for a while, which goes back into the kind of the communication. As there's something going on, the first inclination might be, well, I need to get out of here. My manager's terrible. And a lot of times, or there's a change in management, and you see that a lot, where there's a change in management, the new person coming in doesn't understand that there might already be accommodations or communications set in place.
Right.
And then the person not having the proper support to do their job like they've been doing it. Yeah, so that's another one that I feel like I've been coming across lately. All right, so top 5 strengths of neurodivergent people, according to this study, are hyperfocus, creativity, innovative thinking, authenticity, and detail processing. And so I think sometimes what our strengths, sometimes we also have seen maybe in IEP goals or our goals or whoever goals are also like some of those barriers or soft skills that individuals are working on. So if you have someone that gets hyper focused on, I mean, it could be anything, right? Somebody is, it could be a color, a book. It could
Oh
be,
gosh, for my son, it was music, and now he's a bassist. It worked out well for him,
oh,
but
wow.
he would come home and we would be sitting downstairs and he's upstairs, and his band teacher in high school never ever had to tell him to practice because boy, that kid would not stop. And he wouldn't stop playing the same thing until he got it right and he got it perfect. So that focus it's really a strength for him and it's paid off well. But in the time we were going through it, it's like, okay, can you please start a different song?
Or so knowing how to manage those strengths also, um,
Yes.
but also seeing them as a strength, maybe while you're going through the struggle or that exchange of, especially if it's music related, that can be loud. And then on the next slide, we have some jobs that are associated with those same strengths. So these are either under the Department of Labor saying that they match up, or also going on Indeed and just putting these the strengths in there, and then these jobs pop up. So for hyper focus, there's document scanning, there's software programmer, assistant baker. And when we get into some resources later too, you'll see where some of these strengths can go into different like trade skills and other jobs that are available out there. The creativity, so event associate, teacher assistant, craftsperson, innovative thinking is entrepreneur, audio visual tech, graphic design, authenticity, teacher, customer support, advocate, detail processing, so lab technician, engineering, or bookkeeping. And if anyone else out there has other strengths that you can think of or jobs that relate to those strengths, feel free to put in the chat too, so I can note those down also.
Yes, yes. Every little bit helps, right? One thing that we see, because we work with so many families, um, with neurodiverse kids. And because we work in Houston, which is, the oil and gas area, and so many different engineering types of jobs, is one thing we see a lot is that those engineer brain grown-ups have neurodivergent children quite often. Or it could just be because that's where we live and that's who our clients are. But it almost seems like there could be a correlation there.
Yeah, and I think too we are seeing more some of the bigger companies like Exxon and NASA are now creating their own like family resource networks for those employees that have
Mhm.
students or children with those diagnoses as well. So that's great to see also. But very good point. All right, so some resources. I try and share this little cheat sheet because I come from Workforce Solutions, which is right there on the left, when I worked under Houston Galveston Area Council. And people get these two mixed up all of the time because they sound exactly the same. Yes.
I'm guilty.
This includes people that work within these agencies too. So there is Workforce Solutions, and Workforce Solutions is a nonprofit. It's a workforce board. So the Houston Galveston Area Council I think it goes in and out of being the largest workforce board in the United States. It's huge. It covers 13 counties. So we have rural, suburbs, urban. There's a lot of different um, people, wage gaps, all of the above, right? Um, and all of the grants, not all of them, but most of them come from TWC. And so I think that's why we partner, or they partner a lot. So that's why it gets confusing as well. Workforce Solutions provides a variety of job-related services to all community members. So there doesn't necessarily have to be a diagnosis to get services. They have information for everyone. Any staff can help you. An application is not necessary for all services. It is for some, I will say that. But you could go into any Workforce Solutions office and they should be able to help you, whether it's you need help with your resume or just looking up jobs online, some of those kind of basic supports that you might need. And then they are limited on types of financial support that they can provide. And so Texas Workforce Solutions, which is also TWC, which is also vocational rehabilitation services, they are all state employees. So they work directly for Texas Workforce Commission. They provide employment services to individuals with disabilities who have a barrier to work. So you have to have a diagnosis, and there has to be an impediment to you getting the job done. There is an application and eligibility required for any type of service, and you have an assigned counselor. So you have kind of one touch base, one touch point. And if eligible, funding can be used to help with a variety of different accommodations that are work related. So let's say if you needed to get something done to your car, or you have a van and you needed a wheelchair accessibility, or anything like, so they can do kind of large scale expensive accommodations. They can also just go in and say it can be something smaller at a work site, but they would be able to pay for those expenses through the application process, right? We know the application process can take 30 to 90 days, depending on what you're applying for. We're going to talk about other services in just a second, but for their generalized services, the application process can be a little tedious. So as soon as you know you might need services, that's when you want to get in contact with a counselor.
These two are co-located, they work together, right?
Correct. So most offices, they are going to be joined. As soon as when you walk into an office, it's Workforce Solutions, right? That's a little more the open area. And then vocational rehabilitation services, that's where counselors are going to have their own offices. And that's going to be further in the back so there's more privacy. But yeah,
Okay.
so that's
Now,
why it's confusing too.
one thing that we see a lot, especially with the vocational rehab, is so much turnover. Can you address that in any way? It's so hard to get our kids going and get these programs working for us if you talk to a person one day and the next time you call, they're not even there. So, is there anything being done to combat that?
So that I can't really speak to that because that is not under
Yeah,
my.
I
But
know.
say I would always know like who the manager is of your counselor or who else is in that office with your counselor. Because if you're not hearing back from your counselor, I would, you keep moving up the chain, right? If
Right.
you have big caseloads, I attended the last TWC transition meeting for Texas, and there was actually a decrease in turnover. I don't know
Good.
how much it was, and I don't know exactly like if it was in our region either. But they are trying to make efforts to decrease that, because that has been a huge problem and complaint from a lot of customers all over the state of Texas. But specifically what they're doing, I can't speak to that. If I find
Oh,
out, I'll let you know.
okay. But they are aware and they're trying. We just
Yeah,
have to put on our really patient pants.
yes. But yeah, I think always just know who that next person is that you should be reaching out to.
That is a great
Just
tip.
because.
So once we start, we hook up with our VR counselor. One of the first things we can ask them is, okay, who is your team? Who's above you? Not that
Mhm,
I'm looking to bypass you, but if the need arises.
mhm. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
All right. And so under Texas Workforce Solutions, TWC, VR, they have the pre-employment transition services. And so these services are a little bit easier to get for students. So that's just like a one-page application. If you needed any additional funding or supports, like you'd probably have to fill out the generalized application. But just to get the pre-employment transition services, the eligibility is you must be a student, and that can be private school, college, public school, homeschooling, some kind of schooling institution. Age 14 to 22, documented diagnosis, And as of this past October, you have to have a documentation that you're a citizen. So that is really good to know going forward because that was a big change. And a source of conflict sometimes in the school, which is understandable. And so there's 5 categories to pre-ed. So there's career awareness, there's work readiness, there's post-secondary counseling, there's self-advocacy, and then there's work-based learning. And there are a lot of different curriculums that fall under each of these categories. Typically, they're held within the school. Could be right after school. There's some school camps during the summertime. Sometimes if it's agreed upon with the counselor and the school, you can do it during the school day as long as it's not interfering with any of their like needed graduation curriculum. And it could be a 1-day event, right? So maybe there's like a short one on reality check where you're going through and just looking at what the cost of everything is and how much you would need to make. There's some curriculums that could be 30 hours, so it could last a whole semester, and you have someone coming in like once a week, going over different topics, just really depending on what the students' needs are and working that out, arranging it with the school district and the counselor. And usually the ratio is 6 students to 1 provider. So no more than 6 students, or if it's more than 6, then you would just need another provider there. They want to keep those ratios low. So those are great services. Everyone's eligible. Those are free services. I would be asking for them at your next ARD meeting for sure.
Yes, yes. And this link here, when you receive these slides later on today, you will be able to just click this link to go to find your nearest Texas Workforce Commission VR office.
Mm-hmm. And every school has an assigned counselor to them. They might not
Okay.
know it, but they do. They should. So you should be able to ask. And there is a counselor assigned over specific schools, and that's all designated before the start of the school year. All right, so here are some colleges that have specific programs for individuals who are neurodiverse or have disabilities. You may have heard of them. There's the VAST Academy. That is through Houston City College. So there's multiple locations. I think they just opened another VAST at I think they have them at 3 or 4 of their Houston City colleges now. Then University of Houston Clear Lake. So if you are on the south side of Houston, there's great opportunity for connecting to college there. There's Alvin Community College. So that's down in like the Lake Jackson area, Pearland Lake Jackson. Gateway Academy, that is right off over here, 290, I-10, 610, little corridor. And they also have a life path. What's it called? I think it's called Advance. Now I don't want to misspeak, but Advance for learning independence living as well. University of St. Thomas, they have Associate in Pragmatic Studies. That just started 2 years ago, I think, but I've heard really great things about it. I'm pretty sure they have a wait list already. And then Lone Star College, Life Path, which is up in the Woodland Spring area. It's a great program also. All of those are lending itself into employment. So learning all of the skills that it takes to gain employment. And so that could be with or without a degree, but making those opportunities available as well.
Many, many, many colleges across the United States have programs specifically built for our loved ones. And if you are interested in looking at more, I'm going to put a link in, well, a website in the chat box. Thinkcollege.net is a database where you can go and look for specific college programs that are meant for neurodiverse students.
Awesome. All right. And here is one of my favorite places, TXRX Labs. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it is a huge kind of maker space where they have a passion for teaching young people, exposing young people to different trade skills out there that are sustainable and making good wages. And so they offer classes, variety of tech topics. They have woodworking, welding, metal fabrication. They have 3D printing. They have a whole class on how to build the batteries for a cell phone. So some of those like detail oriented individuals we might know, and some of our individuals love that repetition. So there's a lot of different jobs there that kind of prevent the anxiety because you know exactly what you're doing. You're going in, but it's very tedious work. You have to be very focused, do everything exactly correct, but over and over again. There is a company, I forget the name of the company, but they used to outsource to China, but now they have a partnership at TXRX Labs, and it's building the face masks, like medical face masks. And so they have a whole program for that also. So it's a cool way to just kind of learn what's out there that's different from our normal going to college, even some of the certificate programs that are out there also. And they have different opportunities in partnership with like TWC, so different scholarships. But it's great to go and have a tour of it and just see what's out there. So you see a lot of entrepreneurs also. There's jewelry making, there's tons of different stuff. And there is a link I have because there's always a slide on here that we can't get to play. So I'll share that in this chat in just a minute, but it is a virtual tour of this TXRX Labs. And it's a huge, huge building. Yeah, it's 30,000 square feet. And it's right next to another maker space also. So you can kind of just
So
see.
students can go there and kind of learn the basics of what, let's say, leather or photography. Learn the basics and then use the equipment to kind of have their own career in photography. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, or it might be there is a company that's partnering with TXRX, and and they have a program where they are training future staff. So it'll be a credential. So you might get a scholarship to get a certification in, let's say, some kind of welding fabrication, but there's this partnership. So you're learning the skill, you know, the job is out there, and then nothing is guaranteed, but you have all of that experience that leads you to a possible interview for that company
Oh,
that they've
that
already
is
partnered with.
fantastic. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm always hearing about new companies that are wanting to partner with them also. An Ion Lab, so that is one that's more focused on kind of all things technology, environment, oil and gas, maybe more of that engineering mind. A lot of robotics are there. That's downtown here in Houston. Greentown Labs is right across from Ion Labs, but it's very similar, kind of like all the robotics. A lot of prototypes. They do a lot of workshops. So if you like sign up or go on their website, you can go see like different workshops that they might have of career paths that might be out there in the robotics field. Just really cool stuff that I never knew about before. So I'm always like excited to share it.
That is exciting.
Yeah. And then on the next slide, so we'll skip
So
that
this is
one.
the slide where we should be able to watch a neat video, but Zoom doesn't really allow us to do that. So Anna's going to put the link to the video in the chat box, and we can all, copy and paste that later, or, write it down when it's in the chat box and go look that up later. But it sounds like a really, really cool project. And I'm definitely going to be checking out that link, plus also the links that were on the previous page that, their websites and everything, because these programs are just fantastic.
Here. And the video is just like 3 minutes long. So I'm going to find it in just a second. When you're talking, Michelle, I'll go back and find it.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
I promise. These are just some more in and around Houston to kind of, you can go look and explore if these might be closer to where you live. So there's Fab Lab Houston, that's Baker Ripley, kind of up in the Aldine area. Humble Makers, so that's northeast Houston. Idea Studio, that's actually Houston City College. I haven't updated this, still says Houston Community College. But they have an awesome makerspace also. I think they built it last year or the year before. So these are just in and around. And if you don't live in and around Houston, just Google it because they will pop up everywhere. And I would
Yeah, that's just such
definitely,
a neat idea.
mm-hmm. Even just to get into as a hobby too, like we say, like at a younger age, exposing, our young ones to these different
Mm.
career paths or activities. Other resources that I utilize a lot, of course, Consolidated Planning Group, Family to Family Network, even though they have closed their doors, the website is still up and they're still active on LinkedIn and other areas. They have a plethora of resources and information. Texas On Course, slide got messed up, but this is a
Yeah, it's a
great,
little,
oops, this is a great resource too. So this is kind of goes into, they have everything from like 6th grade up into 12th grade as far as activities and games you can play online to learn about different career paths out there. So just kind of all of the things that we've been talking about, they have different activities on Texas On Course. They also have areas where they can help you fill out like your FAFSA, application, or you can put in all of your information and it will tell you what grants or Pell Grants, things that you might be eligible for. So it's a
that's
great
fantastic.
resource to utilize. It's very user friendly, and again, good for those kind of like younger age kids. You can trick them into learning about um, um, employment kind of stuff, but they're actually playing a game. So
Oh, fun. I love it when we can trick them into doing
right.
what's right for them.
Exactly. And this is just some screenshots of their website. Um, yeah, Map My Grad. So if kind of helps you determine too, like maybe if college isn't the path, then what are the alternatives as well?
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you said it's a free website.
This
You
is a
probably have to register and
Yeah, you do have to register. It is free. And they partner with different schools as well. So like you could do it in school. Some people they'll have it like as class activities. So it's something that if you don't know if your teacher or school's using, that's something to share with them as well. So
fantastic.
here's kind of a new initiative. Helping Heroes is a partnership that the organization's called Helping Heroes. They have partnership with Kroger, and actually more so Advantage, which is the sample company at Kroger.
Oh,
And so
mhm.
it is a way to kind of get out there and learn some skills. So they have two levels. One is the hero, that's $10 an hour. And then they have a team lead, which is $14 an hour. So the hero goes into a setup sample cart and they pass out the samples. So you're working on customer service, talking, cleanliness, because you're wearing the gloves, you take a food handler's license. And then if you are team lead, then you are actually going in and setting up from start to finish, checking in with Kroger, to checking out with Kroger. So it's a great um, kind of beginning effort, or if you know of someone who doesn't want to work a lot of hours. So right now it's one day a week, but they are expanding. But it's a great program and it's a great relationship that they've built there. And they're I'm not associated with them, but I do have one person I'm working with does that, and he just got promoted to team lead. So so they work with the person with all their strengths to get them independent. And
Oh,
then Special
fantastic.
Trong, I just like to share this one too. They are the same person as Helping Heroes, um, but they are all things like fitness and athletic activities, and they do large group classes, corporate classes, private sessions. Just a great way to stay active as a young person, sometimes we don't keep that going continued like as our young individual or children or loved ones age. We want to make sure to keep everybody active and healthy.
I love this comment in the chat box. Melissa says, I have found that young adults typically only show interest in positions that they have been exposed to. So greater exposure through these kinds of programs is greater opportunity and gives them informed choice. I love that, Melissa. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yes. Thank you. Just here's a list of some, not all, of course, that I use. Um, yeah, so I just like to
Fantastic
share as much as I
resources.
can.
Yes,
uh,
thank you so much for those.
Apprenticeship Houston. We only have 5 minutes, but this is a great place to go for paid as you are training type jobs. And these go from anywhere from needing no degree to a 4-year degree. But this is, you can go in, explore this website. Like it says, over 800,000 apprenticeships there. You want to look for registered apprenticeship, make sure there's that registered in there, because that means that
Mhm.
you are getting paid as you are being trained on the job. And these are all jobs that the reason that the whole apprenticeship and Department of Labor is promoting these is because these are needed for the future. So they're sustainable, they're going to be long lasting, and usually you get paid pretty well.
That is fantastic.
Yes. So my information. So I do one-on-one support. So that is, and that's private pay. That's going in and just really understanding what the individual goals are, the family's goals, and how do we get to employment. Then I also am a provider, like I said, under pre-employment transition services for TWC, and happy to have a conversation. Consult is free. If you just want some resources, I'm happy to talk with you also. The next slide is my email and phone number. So always happy to. Oh, I messed up on
Oops.
this one
Oh my
too.
God.
Okay.
It's skewed too. Well, I'll put it in the chat box. 1820 is the phone number.
But if you have any questions or uh, want me to repeat anything, I'm always happy to connect. So thank you so much.
This has been so great. And there are so many great resources out there. I always encourage people to, if you find something really cool, or if you know of something that we haven't mentioned, feel free to drop me. That's how I feel. But I don't think you would be offended either. If someone drops you a little note of, hey, Anna, I saw this really cool thing. You might want to add it in. Send
Yes,
those to us because if you stop learning, you might as well be dead. And we can learn from the community as much as you can learn from us. So please feel free to share any information that you have about great programming with us so that we can tell more people about it. But definitely, Anna, your presentation, I love it because you always have so much great information and such great resources to share. So definitely reach out to Anna if you have any more questions, anything that she can help you with. As it comes to consolidated planning group, we are first and foremost, we're financial advisors, right? We're not a bank. We're more like consultants. We're going to help you just kind of think about all of these different financial aspects and what you need to do to make sure that you and your loved one can look confidently into the future. We host these webinars. This link will take you to upcoming webinars. If you pre-register, you're going to be able to have it on your calendar. You'll have the link prepared and ready to go. And plus, we'll send you that email with the recording and the slides. So go ahead and look up our upcoming webinars and sign up for anything that interests you. Most importantly, we offer this completely free Zoom consultation. You'll be able to chat with myself or one of the other financial advisors on our team. We first want you to ask questions. What are you stuck on? What is keeping you up at night? What advice or help can we give you? We ask you to fill out a short questionnaire so that we know ahead of time a couple little things that we can advise you on. We also know a little bit about your family and what we're walking into in this consultation. And then once we've answered your questions and helped you out, we'll talk a little bit about what we do and what our process looks like and what we charge for our services so that you can determine if it would be a good idea to move forward with us. So you can call the office or email the office. You could use the QR code, or you could call or email me directly. I had already put my info in the chat box, and I'll do that one more time. Anna did put in the link for the TXRX Labs tour. So grab that. It's a YouTube link. Grab that before we hop off. This page also has our links to our YouTube channel, Instagram, our podcast, and our Facebook page. And then the last page we have here for you today is just our team at Consolidated Planning Group. We are a small boutique style firm. We're all very friendly, so please be kind when we call you to see if you want to set up your initial consultation. We truly have it in our hearts to help. So if there's anything that you should have questions about, always feel free to reach out to us directly. Thank you, Melissa. She says these webinars are always such a rich resource of information. Thank you. And again, I just clicked to put my contact info in the chat box again. I hope everybody has a fantastic holiday season. Merry Christmas to all. Happy New Year. Any other holiday that you celebrate, I hope that is wonderful for your family. And if you need anything, we're here. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome. Thank you.